Human beings like to believe we're rational creatures, guided by logic, elevated by intellect, and held upright by millions of years of evolution. All of which sounds impressive until you spend 5 minutes examining the decisions we actually make. Across living rooms, offices, highways, and digital comment sections, people routinely launch themselves into chaos with the confidence of Olympic athletes and the foresight of someone trying to read a map upside down. These aren't tragic incidents or philosophical dilemmas. They're moments when the brain simply clocked out early and left the body to improvise. Like microwaving metal because it looked safe, calling the police to ask if your illegal stash is technically illegal, or climbing onto the roof during a storm because you thought lightning respected personal space. What makes these stories so mesmerizing isn't just the stupidity itself, it's the unwavering certainty behind it. There's a strange beauty in watching someone execute a catastrophically bad idea with total commitment, like a magician sawing themselves in half without a rehearsal or safety guidelines. These decisions aren't small missteps. They're full-body leaps into the abyss, powered by impulse, adrenaline, and the misplaced belief that consequences are optional. Every generation produces new examples, new headlines, new entries in the unwritten encyclopedia of, "Why did you think that was a good idea?" Today, we're opening a classified archive of the most magnificently ill-considered choices. 45 moments when hesitation could have saved the day, but confidence won the coin toss. Fasten your seatbelts. Logic is about to die a spectacular death. A man once tried to kill a spider in his basement by setting the entire corner of the room on fire, proudly assuming flames would solve what shoes and paper towels could not. The fire spread instantly, turning his anti-spider campaign into a full-blown emergency that required 3 fire engines and a lecture from several exhausted firefighters. He later admitted he didn't consider that houses are, in fact, flammable. Nothing reveals human intellect like escalating a tiny problem into a structural disaster. A tourist tried taking a selfie on the edge of a cliff, leaning farther and farther back to get the angle right, without noticing his footing was disappearing beneath him. Witnesses said he adjusted his pose at least 5 times while ignoring every warning shouted at him. He survived with minor injuries, but lost his camera and the last ounce of respect from park rangers. When vanity outweighs gravity, gravity always wins. One man called the police to report his drugs stolen, insisting he simply wanted justice and a fair investigation. Officers arrived to find he still had additional illegal substances on him, which he presented as evidence. He was promptly arrested while complaining about the inefficiency of modern law enforcement. Confidence is powerful, but it's not a legal defense. A woman microwaved a metal fork because she thought metal only sparks if you hit it. The resulting flash startled the entire apartment complex and destroyed the microwave in seconds. She later said she wanted to warm the fork for aesthetic reasons, a statement that raised even more questions than the fire alarm. Not every experiment needs a participant. A driver followed his GPS instructions so literally that he continued down a boat ramp and into a lake because the map said the road kept going. As the car slowly sank, he blamed poor satellite alignment rather than his own eyes. Emergency responders documented the incident under the unofficial category of blind trust in technology. If common sense had a battery, his was at 1%. At a hardware store, a man tested a chainsaw by placing his hand on the blade to feel if it was sharp, forgetting that sharpness isn't the main danger. Motion is. The saw was on. He left the store with bandages, a tetanus shot, and a lifetime ban from the demonstration aisle. Curiosity might not kill the cat, but it definitely maims the human. A woman climbed through a restaurant's drive-through window because staff forgot her dipping sauce, announcing she would get it herself, as if trespassing improved customer service. Security footage shows her slipping, dropping her purse, and demanding refunds while half inside the building. Police arrived to find her wedged between the soda machine and the counter. Some battles are not worth the condiments. A man tried drying his wet socks in a toaster, believing it worked like a horizontal clothes dryer. The socks ignited immediately, filling the kitchen with smoke and the unmistakable scent of burning fabric and regret. Firefighters arrived before the flames spread, but not before he attempted to save the toaster with a second pair of socks. Some lessons must be learned the hard, smoky way. During a power outage, a couple lit dozens of scented candles for light, placing them directly beneath their smoke detector. When the alarm triggered from the heat, they assumed it was malfunctioning and tried disabling it with a broom handle, accidentally knocking it down and breaking it. Minutes later, one candle tipped and started a small fire no alarm could warn them about. Nothing says romance like accidental irony. A teenager attempted to siphon gasoline from a car by mouth, unaware that cars stopped using easily reachable fuel tubes decades ago. He ended up with a mouthful of gasoline and a hospital visit, all while attempting to film the stunt for social media. Even his friends refused to upload the footage, declaring it too embarrassing for the internet. When your audience rejects stupidity, you've crossed a rare threshold. A man tried to fix a leaking pipe by wrapping it tightly with electrical tape and then hitting it with a hammer to seal it better. The pipe instantly split open like a ruptured water balloon, flooding his basement within seconds. When firefighters arrived, he confidently explained that pressure plus force equals solution. Physics filed a restraining order. A college student attempted to clean his laptop keyboard by running it under the kitchen faucet, arguing that water cleans everything, so water should clean electronics. The laptop died on contact, and he spent the next hour trying to air dry the circuits with a hairdryer set to high. He later asked the repair technician if laptops came in waterproof versions for clumsy people. Some lessons require sacrificing technology to the gods of poor judgment. A woman locked herself out of her house and tried to break back in by crawling through the dog door, confidently believing she wasn't that big. She became lodged halfway, unable to move forward or backward, while her dog barked in panic at the human legs protruding into the kitchen. Neighbors called emergency services after hearing muffled screaming from the siding. When your escape plan requires cartoon physics, reconsider. A man used a blowtorch to thaw frozen pipes without removing nearby flammable insulation, essentially turning his crawl space into a slow-cooking disaster. The small flame became a big one, and firefighters arrived to find him still insisting he almost had it under control. The blaze cost more than replacing the pipes ever would have. Fire is rarely the solution, and often the sequel. During a hiking trip, a teenager tried to scare away a bear by throwing his lunch at it, shouting, "Go fetch!" as if bears follow dog logic. The bear responded by eating both the sandwich and the teen's backpack, sending everyone sprinting back down the trail. Rangers later explained that feeding wildlife, even accidentally, creates dangerous behavior patterns. Not all creatures obey human imagination. A man attempted to siphon water from his backyard pool using his mouth, forgetting that pool water is chemically treated and not intended for consumption. He ended up choking on chlorinated water while creating a small whirlpool effect he claimed was science happening. Paramedics found him lying beside the hose, coughing out regrets. Curiosity may be admirable, but lungs are not experiments. A woman tried to remove superglue from her fingers by using more superglue to loosen the first layer, inventing one of the worst feedback loops in household history. Her fingers fused together entirely, and she had to visit urgent care with her hands shaped like a rigid claw. The nurse who treated her needed several moments of silence. Sometimes the solution is not another problem. A man used a metal knife to retrieve bread from a toaster that was still plugged in, believing that his rubber-soled shoes would protect him. The resulting zap threw him backward, sending the toaster flying across the kitchen like disgruntled kitchenware. He was lucky to walk away with only singed eyebrows and a new respect for electricity. Rubber is not a personality trait that cancels electrocution. A woman saw a "do not touch wet paint" sign and touched the surface anyway because she wanted to see if it was really wet. Her handprint became permanently embedded in the glossy finish, ruining 2 hours of careful work by maintenance staff. When confronted, she defended herself by saying, "The sign made me curious." Curiosity is not a permission slip. A driver tried to fill his tires with helium, convinced it would make his car lighter and improve gas mileage. Mechanics watched in stunned silence as he explained his aerodynamic upgrade. The only result was a dangerously inflated tire and a physics lecture he did not want, but desperately needed. Cars are not balloons, and roads are not parades. 21. A man tried to cool down his hot car by breaking one window to let the heat escape faster, believing he had discovered a shortcut to air conditioning. When glass shattered everywhere, he confidently declared it thermodynamics, even as bystanders stared in stunned silence. He later complained to insurance that the heat forced him to do it. Physics said nothing, mostly out of disappointment. 22. A woman attempted to dry her wet phone by placing it in the oven at low heat, insisting it was basically a dehydrator for electronics. The phone melted into a small black puddle of technological despair, fusing itself to the oven rack like a modern art exhibit. She then called customer service to ask if the warranty covered heat-related rejuvenation. Some questions should never reach a call center. 23. A man used a stapler to close a cut on his leg after watching one wilderness survival video and overestimating his medical credentials. The wound became infected immediately, turning his living room into a cautionary tale about improvising healthcare. Doctors removed the rogue staple while he explained his frontier spirit. Real pioneers didn't have access to hospitals. He did. 24. A teenager tried to sneak alcohol into a concert by hiding it inside a plastic bag and taping the bag to her stomach, forgetting that body heat turns liquids into suspiciously warm sloshing noises. Security stopped her instantly, identifying the smuggled contraband before she even reached the gate. She later insisted her plan was foolproof, except for the environment part. Heat rarely collaborates with conspiracy. 25. A man tried to catch a falling kitchen knife by grabbing it mid-air, acting on pure instinct and zero wisdom. The knife sliced his palm, and he ended up in urgent care, explaining that he was trying to save it. Doctors assured him the knife did not need saving. His hand did. Not every reflex deserves respect. 26. A woman attempted to retrieve her dropped phone from a storm drain by sticking her entire upper body inside the grate, becoming firmly stuck like a human cork. Passers-by called firefighters who had to dismantle part of the drain while she apologized between fits of embarrassed laughter. Her phone was recovered. Her dignity was not. Curiosity is rarely worth public extraction. 27. A man hammered a nail into a wall without checking for wiring, proudly declaring, "Electricity stays in the wires unless you touch them directly." The resulting spark knocked out power to half the house, singed his eyebrows, and triggered a breaker panel revolt. Electricians love these calls, but only for the stories. Human confidence remains electricity's most dangerous conductor. 28. A teenager tried to open a stuck jar by punching it repeatedly, assuming brute force would produce enlightenment. The jar shattered in his hands, sending glass flying and leaving him explaining to his parents that martial arts videos make it look easier. He needed stitches and a new understanding of kitchen physics. Jars rarely respond well to aggression. 29. A woman used hairspray near a lit candle because she wanted extra hold before leaving the house, instantly creating a fireball that singed her bangs into minimalist art. The bathroom mirror survived, but her hairstyle did not. She later said nobody warned her aerosol plus fire equals disaster. Warnings don't work when common sense is unplugged. 30. A man tried to impress friends by jumping over a hedge without looking, unaware that a hidden fountain sat directly behind it. He plunged into the freezing water, phone and pride submerged simultaneously, while his friends debated whether to help or finish laughing first. The fountain remained undamaged, his ego never fully recovered. Gravity respects no bragging rights. 31. A man tried to test whether pepper spray was really that strong by spraying a small cloud into the air and walking through it like an action movie star. Within seconds, he collapsed onto the sidewalk, crying, gagging, and insisting he was mostly fine, despite being unable to see anything except his own regrets. Bystanders called paramedics while he kept repeating that he miscalculated the wind. Self-experimentation works best, and the experimenter has a hypothesis beyond "let's see." 32. A woman attempted to heat her frozen windshield by pouring boiling water over it, confident she'd discovered a winter life hack. The glass cracked instantly, spiderwebbing across the entire surface while she stood in stunned silence holding the pot. She later told her mechanic she thought heat cancels cold, a phrase that made him reconsider the future of civilization. Science doesn't bend to optimism. 33. A man climbed onto the roof to adjust his satellite dish during a thunderstorm, announcing he needed real-time precision for the Weather Channel. Lightning struck the yard, sending him scrambling back down the ladder like a terrified cartoon character. Neighbors found him hiding inside, claiming he just needed better reception. Sometimes nature intervenes early to prevent the sequel. 34. A teenager filled his bathroom with shampoo bubbles after attempting to create a giant bubble bath challenge inside the shower. He added an entire bottle of soap, turned on high-pressure water, and watched in horror as foam erupted like a soap volcano. The hallway flooded, the ceiling dripped, and his parents discovered the chaos before he could hide the evidence. Creativity isn't always compatible with plumbing. 35. A shopper tried checking a battery's charge by licking it because he saw someone do it online and assumed it's a technique professionals use. The jolt shocked his tongue so hard that he spit the battery across the store and almost knocked over a display. Employees watched the reenactment of his bad idea with the resignation of people who have seen too much. The human mouth is not a diagnostic tool. 36. A man attempted to clear a wasp nest with a broom, swinging wildly like he was auditioning for an insect-themed kung fu movie. The wasps responded as expected, aggressively, angrily, and with overwhelming teamwork. Minutes later, he ran into the house covered in stings, shouting that violence wasn't the answer. The wasps learned nothing, but he did. 37. A woman tried to charge her phone faster by plugging it into 2 chargers at once using a homemade cable she proudly assembled with tape. The device sparked, smoked, and died instantly while she screamed at the outlet. When the technician asked why she attempted electrical fusion, she replied, "More chargers equals more power." Mathematics disagreed. 38. A man used a treadmill to dry his soaking wet clothes by laying them across the running belt on high speed. The clothes flew off like airborne projectiles, slapping the wall with the force of a laundromat rebellion. His roommate found him dodging shirts like he was in a low-budget action sequence. Innovation without logic is just chaos with confidence. 39. A teenager mixed household cleaners together in a bucket to create a stronger potion, producing toxic fumes that sent the entire family outside, choking and gasping. Firefighters arrived wearing full protective gear, while he insisted he was only trying to disinfect faster. Chemistry doesn't reward enthusiasm, it punishes it. 40. A man attempted to fix his lawnmower by turning it upside down while it was still running, convinced it was safer than turning it off and on again. The spinning blade sent dirt and debris in every direction, nearly slicing his shoe before he dropped the machine in panic. His neighbors watched from a distance, like spectators at a dangerous sporting event. Machines can sense fear and stupidity. 41. A man tried to test whether his fire alarm worked by lighting a small piece of paper on fire beneath it, forgetting that fire spreads faster than curiosity. The flames leapt to his curtains, forcing him to extinguish the blaze with a pot of soup he'd been reheating. Firefighters arrived to find steam, smoke, and a man insisting the experiment was controlled until it wasn't. Safety devices don't require auditions. They work fine without performance art. 42. A woman attempted to unclog her toilet by pouring in an entire bag of quick-dry cement, convinced it would push everything down by solidifying around it. The toilet became a stone monument to terrible judgment, fusing itself permanently to the plumbing. Plumbers had to replace half the bathroom, all while she explained her theory like it was a misunderstood breakthrough. Not every idea deserves execution. Some deserve exile. 43. A teenager tried to cut his own hair with kitchen scissors while watching a tutorial at double speed, confident he could keep up with the instructions. The result resembled a topographical map more than a hairstyle, with uneven patches and one accidental bald stripe. His parents spent the next day pleading with a barber to perform a miracle. Tutorials are not skill downloads. 44. A man used gasoline to start a backyard barbecue because he wanted restaurant-level flames, igniting a fireball that singed his eyebrows and sent the grill skidding backwards. Neighbors filmed as he flailed around with a garden hose, shouting that TV chefs make it look easy. The grill survived. His pride did not. Fire obeys physics, not ambition. A woman reached into a vending machine to retrieve a stuck candy bar, wedging her entire arm through the slot like a determined raccoon. The machine tilted, trapped her, and forced bystanders to call security, who freed her after an embarrassingly long extraction. She left without the candy, escorted by staff trying not to laugh. When dessert becomes a rescue operation, the universe is sending a message. So far, we've wandered through a landscape of human decision-making so chaotic it feels less like reality and more like a cosmic improv show no one rehearsed for. So far, we've seen scientists weaponize dolphins, governments panic over clouds, and people who genuinely believed the Earth was allergic to satellites. Somewhere out there, common sense is screaming into a pillow. Across these 45 moments of spontaneous self-sabotage, a strange and familiar pattern emerges. The absolute confidence people possess right before doing something catastrophically unwise. It's the unwavering certainty that microwaving metal is perfectly safe, that rooftops are ideal locations during lightning storms, that gasoline improves barbecue flavor, and that storm drains make excellent phone recovery tunnels. Each story isn't just a snapshot of thoughtlessness, it's a case study in the human brain's ability to unplug at the exact moment it's needed most. And yet, these choices weren't driven by malice or desperation. They were powered by impulse, optimism, and a heroic level of misplaced trust in physics, technology, household appliances, and the internet. In every incident, there's a tiny glimpse of something universal. Our instinct to act first and rationalize later. It's the same instinct that makes people grab falling knives, test pepper spray on themselves, or believe they can outrun gravity through sheer determination. It's reckless, baffling, and strangely endearing. Proof that even in a world full of information, tutorials, and caution labels, humanity still prefers learning lessons the dramatic way. These stories remind us that stupidity isn't always loud or malicious. Sometimes it's a quiet moment of bold confidence followed by a very loud consequence. Maybe stupidity isn't the opposite of intelligence. It's what happens when intelligence goes unsupervised. And when you examine these 45 choices closely, you start to see a version of humanity that is both hilarious and heartbreakingly familiar. A species capable of building rockets and decoding genomes, yet still willing to microwave forks, punch glass jars, and negotiate with bears using sandwiches. These moments aren't outliers. They're reminders that our minds are constantly tugged between instinct and logic, impulse and caution, ego and gravity. We are creatures who learn slowly, forget quickly, and repeat mistakes with theatrical enthusiasm. What makes these stories sting a little is how easily any of us could have been the protagonist. 1 second of confidence, one burst of impatience, one belief that it'll probably be fine, and suddenly you're explaining to firefighters why your socks were in the toaster, or demonstrating to a bewildered ER nurse how you stapled a wound closed, like in a movie. The Absurdist Files doesn't exist because the world is full of fools. It exists because the world is full of humans, and humans are endlessly creative in the ways they underestimate consequences. We always reach for the impossible, but sometimes it's because no one stopped to ask if we should. These choices reveal a universal truth, that intelligence is not a constant. It's a flickering light, occasionally bright, occasionally dim, and sometimes completely unplugged. Yet there's a strange beauty in this chaos, a reminder that progress and disaster often walk hand in hand, separated only by a moment's hesitation or the lack of it. This has been the Absurdist Files, where logic takes a vacation and reality writes the jokes.